Hey guys, sebchoof here. Realm of the Mad God has had one of its best updates of all time, which revamped the enchantment system and the forge. Now you can get some game-breaking items, and I'm gonna teach you how, including some really awesome unique enchants for items such as the lot armors that spawn dragons, or for conducting ones that gives you the scepter ability but not even on sorcerer, so you get the scepter blasts unlike playing priest. And as always with the deca updates, there's some bugs. Not as many as usual, but some really bad ones that lead you to disconnect more, and some that lead you to wasting your items and time. I'm gonna help you prevent all of those. Let's get right into it, shall we? So basically, items now have a chance to spawn with between 0 to 4 enchantment slots, all containing random enchantments. We got Uncommon, which has 1 slot, Rare for 2 slots, Legendary for 3 slots, and the beautiful Divine for 4 slots. And this isn't just for tiered items, no, like how it was before. This can also include UTs and STs. They also made the awesome but controversial drop boost to UTs and STs, which now drop way more. It's controversial because people say that getting items easier to acquire makes the potential play time in the game much less because it's easier to grind. And normally I would agree, but this update is awesome for both low time complainers, the ones that complain about never being able to get a planewalker because it's too damn rare. It's also awesome for the endgame players. Sure, it might be easier to get the best in slot items now, but it's about getting the best items with the best in slot enchants. Good luck getting those, holy shit. Because first you need to roll a 4 slot item, which as you will find out soon is going to be really rare, and then you need the best enchants on it, which is also very rare. I'll be showing you what the best enchants are in a moment. Seasonal mode is much more worth playing than ever before because your chance of getting slots on seasonal items are higher. How it works is you need to first roll the uncommon slot, the 1 slot, then there's a chance that that will also be rare, and then there's a separate chance that will be a legendary. Finally, on top of that, you need to roll a chance that it will be a divine, to have those beautiful 4 slots. So to get the uncommon, you first need to roll a 1 in 2 chance, 50%. Then after that, you need to roll a 37.5% chance to get the rare with 2 slots. Then on top of that, you need to roll another 25% chance for it to be legendary. And then lastly, for the divine 4 slots, you need to roll another 12.5% chance, all on top of each other. So as you can imagine, it can get quite rough when it's all added up, and it does. To get a divine for non-seasonal, it's a 1 in 170 chance. But seasonal has a 5% greater chance on all of these rolls. So initially it's only slightly higher to get an uncommon on seasonal than non-seasonal, and then the edge of seasonal really shows when it makes it up to rare. When you get to legendary, it's got a decent edge, and lastly you can really see the difference when you get to divine with the 4 slots, which is instead a 1 in 142 chance. There's also the benefit that you get 15% more dust when playing seasonal, which is really important for enchanting. I'll show you how to use it in a second, but you also see that I have shinies listed on this graph. Well, shiny chances, just like UTs and STs, have been greatly increased. And the new great thing about shinies is that they will spawn with at least a rare enchant, so 2 slots. So you skip the chances for you to get uncommon, and then rare, and it starts rolling the 1 in 4 into legendary right away. As you can see, there's only a 1 in 29 chance for a shiny to have 4 slots and be divine. You can't increase the amount of slots on an already made item, but you can create items in the forge that can have 4 slots. And I do have some insane tips for this when we do go through the forge system and how to take best advantage of it. Let's go first through the new shiny enchantment system. It's very similar to the previous one, where you can select different items on the left to change the enchantments, but there's some major differences. Firstly, the enchantments themselves are way different and much more interesting. They can spawn on basically any equipable item. In the description, I'll link this sheet that shows all the potential enchantments you can get. These range in power quite drastically and can be good or bad depending on the build you're going for. There's all sorts of enchants like flat bonuses and loot bonuses and much more. There's also equipment type specific enchants, like for example weapon damage on weapons, or on ability there's stat bonuses on using your ability, for example. There's too many to list, and I respect your time way too much, so scroll through if you like in the document to see them all. What I would do instead is tell you what the best and worst enchants are, the enchants that you must go for, and the enchants that you must avoid. Some of these enchants are so bad that they will just cause compels you to disconnect more. So firstly, the best enchants that any equipable item in the game can get are these unique mods. Specifically, the attack or dex boost are best. However, these are super rare, but there is a way to make them much easier to get, and I'll show you how later. Otherwise, you can't be mad at any other dex or attack boosts from mods, whether it's a single or dual stat increase, or a temporary boost. DPS is always good because a good offense is a good defense, and it also makes you get loot faster. Also, the reward bonuses are great. You can get extra loot, XP, or dust on your items. You can never get enough of those, except for XP of course if you already have a maxed out pet, because you probably already watched my critically acclaimed pet guide. Mods to avoid that can appear on any type of gear would be the ones that subtract DPS stats. I'd also avoid relative stat mods. They're not that good at the moment. They used to be OP, but it's the complete opposite now. Even if you have a build that stacks as much of the same stat as possible, it almost always won't beat the singular stat increase mod, and definitely not the unique one. By the way, just so you know, the relative stat mod scales off stats on your gear and exalts, but not your base stats, or temporary stats, or enchants. For weapon specific mods, damage bonuses, especially overwhelming strikes, is the best. Fire rate is also good, but not as good because every shot you shoot, the damage is subtracted by the enemy defense, and I've heard that it can disconnect you more. A mod that you really need to stay away from at the moment is the range increase one, because I've heard from many that that one does have a great chance of disconnecting you more often, and I'm hoping that it gets fixed with the update on the 20th. Also, the mods that give you DPS boosts through temporary stats or buffs when you shoot are go-to. There's also the ones where when you shoot you have a chance of restoring your HP or mana, which is great because it just allows you to use your ability more or improves your survivability. For abilities, the best unique mods are the MP cost reduction and flat and percentage mana regeneration. You just can spam your ability more, can never complain about that. Also, similar to the on-shoot chance percent where you get the DPS stats or buffs, there's also one for when you use your ability, there's a chance that you get the DPS stats or buffs. Those are also great. For abilities, the mod that you really want to avoid at all costs is the stat mod multiplier. Crazy name, but what this is supposed to do is increase the amount your ability scales with a certain stat, but instead it actually removes all of its stat scaling. So hopefully this is fixed soon because it would be pretty cool if it worked. For armors, the damage resistance mod is top tier, and also the flat and percentage life regeneration are great for survivability, and the on-hit DPS boosts are nice as well as on-hit healing buff. But currently the damage reduction on armors is actually disabled because it's not working. Deca Games moment. For rings, a lot of the things that I said were unique to weapons, armors, and abilities you can actually get just on your ring as well. You can see for yourself on the document in the item labels and incompatible item labels what you can and can't get on what. So everything I mentioned prior is recommended for rings, except there's a few things that the rings can't get, and that includes the weapon damage and fire rate, reduced mana cost, and damage reduction. Rings can get even more reward boosts, including this really special unique mod that gives you 3% more XP, loot, and dust. This mod is super rare, but again I'll show you in a moment how to get this much easier. Now before I go through something really special with you, I need to tell you before you waste all of your time and dust going for a specific combination of enchants, that some enchants actually can't exist together. Like for example, you can't get multiple of the same or even multiple of the special unique modifier. You can't even have multiple single stat increasing mods, even if it is a unique one and one that's just a regular vanilla one. You need to look for yourself at the document at the enchantment labels and incompatible enchantment labels section to see what is possible to have together. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We also have a super handy help channel in the Discord where if you ask a question, someone will get back to you super soon. You can also see how rare an enchant is on the document by dividing the weight of an enchant by the total, which is 1,888,000. So each of those singular pink unique enchants have a 0.1% of spawning on a slot. So I recommended a lot of contradictory enchants, like for example ones that increase your damage, but also ones that give you survivability. It's not bad to have both of these on a single item, and it would be better for a more wide variety of stuff you do in the realm, but something that you could do to maximize your gameplay is, if you have the space in your inventory and you can be bothered to swap, you can set up multiple sets. One for damage, potentially one for healing for dungeons like Moonlight Village, and the loot set for maximizing your drops and dust gains from dungeons, and even chest openings. A set that you can swap to just before the boss dies. I haven't even talked about the very best enchants hands down yet, but they're a bit too unique. There's these super special enchants called Awakenings, which are specific to a few items. Some are just stat boosts, including this one for the already overpowered Pirate Cave ring. The awakening for it is called the King's Treasure, and when shooting below 25% HP, you get max 80 HP, 8 attack, and 8 defense for 8 seconds. Or another one called Cogbold Spirit that can only appear on the overclocking amulet from the Cogbold Steamworks, and it decreases defense by 5, but when shooting above 90% HP, you get 4 attack and 4 dexterity for 1 second. These enchantments get much cooler. Luckily I went through all of them in a testing session on stream because they're extremely rare in game, and I'm able to show you how all of them work in game instead of you just seeing some silly text. Firstly, the Buzzing Bullets one is unchanged from before this update, where it gives the Stinger extra damage by launching bees of your attacks. Leafbow and Cutlass used to have this as well, but instead they have a weaker reskinned version where Leafbow shoots bugs and Cutlass shoots metal. The new cool ones include the Eye of the Spider, which can appear on the Spider Eye ring. It gives it 50 HP and 5 dex, but on ability use it fires a massive web ball that deals 800 damage and slows for a whopping 8 seconds with a 16-second cooldown. There's also the Fawn Swarm for the Bramble Bow that shoots all of this craziness. Then there's the Soulful Mastery for the Doombow, which slows down its fire rate to 18% from 33%, so it shoots roughly half as much, but it deals a whopping 1111 damage. That's a number, right? So you're cutting half the fire rate for more than double the damage, and it has more range. The D-Blade one is super cool. It's called the Hellfire's Edge, and instead of 2 shots it adds a third one and gives them all a much tighter spread to shoot in. Now on all of the Lod armors, like the Water Silk and the Fire Dragon armor, you can get the Drake Warden Awakening, where on ability use it summons a random dragon, which is based off of the eggs that you would find in the Lost Halls pot rooms. Of course the white one heals you a bunch, the green one slows enemies, the blue one paralyzes, there's probably an orange one that curses but I couldn't find it, and there's a purple one for all out damage. It's a random which one you get, and there's a 30-second cooldown. You can also make your EP drastically different by getting the Artificial Core Awakening, where it makes it deal less damage, but it can actually be usable in a lot of situations, unlike the current one. I'm still not a big fan of it. I'd rather commit seppuku by standing on enemies. What I am a big fan of though, however, is the High Voltage Awakening that can appear on the Conducting Wand, where no matter what class you're on, you fire a lightning blast every second like a scepter on Sorcerer, and it's just great. How can you not like that? Last but definitely not least is the Apitoxin Awakening that you can get from the Doku, where you fire a poison on your cursor every second on top of the poison that already appears around you, but I swear the poison radius is increased. Just like the unique mods, there's things that can help you increase the chance of getting these awakenings, since both are really rare. But relax, I'll show you in a moment, okay? Relax. Back to the less unique enchants for a moment. You probably saw they had levels. Well, you can't upgrade enchantments anymore, so the 3 different ways in order to get higher level enchants is farm more of the same item, forge more of that item, or re-roll your enchants, which is probably the most likely one you're going to get it from, because you're going to be re-rolling a lot. Now, depending where you got your item from, you either need green dust for the lower tier items like from the rookie biome, the red dust from more mid to late game dungeons, and purple dust for end game stuff. You're going to need a lot of dust, which is why this video will contain a mini dust farming guide for each color. But the costs depend on a few factors. Firstly, how many different modifiers the item has. The cost starts out at 50 dust, just like you can see on this Vitring, but since it's a rare, it adds 15 to the cost. If it was divine, it would instead cost 100, and for each modifier you lock, it doubles the dust rerolling cost. So if you lock one modifier on a divine, it costs 200 dust, but lock 3 and GG, it costs 800 dust. Holy moly. The best strategy for enchanting is to reroll until you have a great modifier, since locking is so expensive. If you got a perfect enchant, like one that you were really looking for, then lock it before re-rolling. Now, even though having more enchant slots causes it to have a higher cost to roll, the cost is marginal for the chance increase for getting the mods that you want, and the 4 slot items are just stronger in general. If you are looking for any divine items, like for example if you just want to swap out for more XP, dust or loot, you can go to the Dead Church biome and farm the enemies there. There's way too many different small enemies, and they all drop loot at a high frequency, so the chance that you find loot with more enchantment slots here is way better. For these purple dudes and the bats, you want to exterminate their babies before getting rid of the dud, because they will spawn more of them, allowing you to have more chances. Credits to Mr. Noodles for teaching me that. There is a key that allows you to see all the gear on the floor, including the amount of enchants. It's controlled by default. Make sure to use it to see if you got any legendary or divine items that are dropping among the mass. I haven't made a massive settings guide on how to perfect your settings and even increase your DPS, so maybe give that a watch. For green dust, I recommend setting up a trickster with a tier 0 decoy prism that you can pick up from the bazaar if you don't already get it from creating a new character anymore because of the account levels. You want to go to the sprite forest and delete these doggos and the stars for a chance at the dungeon dropping. Trickster easily clears sprite worlds within a minute because you can jump over the gaps. You can also destroy Gaster from Undertale, or less commonly known as the Celestial Sprite and the Cosmic Sprite, which are set pieces in the biome that drop the sprite world guaranteed. These respawn every 8 minutes-ish in the same spot, so you can come back here for guaranteed sprite worlds every few minutes. You should also keep an eye out for magic woods for the same reason, because it's also a sub 1 minute clear time for Trickster, even on a bad character. They have a chance of dropping from the Shrek sprite. You can also go to the forest biome and jump around looking for end set pieces. These drop magic woods guaranteed. These also respawn every 8 minutes or so you can cycle between these and the sprite world set pieces, and then clear some sprite world enemies in between. Remember, you can even use a dust drop increase set to gain even more dust from these, because these dungeons are an El Joco. On top of all this, Decker hands out green dust drop potions like hotcakes, often from the battle pass, mission tree, calendar, question mark, and more, so you can use one of these and go wild. By the way, for all of the different dust colors, make sure to teleport on events that people are at, especially if they're about to finish them, because you only need to hit it a couple of times to gain a bunch of dust from them and a chance to get the loot. Another major tip for dust farming is if you ever see the Key Fairy dungeon mod on a dungeon, do not skip it. Deleting the Key Fairy gives you more dust and makes any dungeon more worthwhile doing because of it. For red dust, the best move in my opinion is farming in the Carboniferous biome and just looking for woodlands, crawling depths, and sulfurous wetlands, which drop from the man-eating flytrap, the sting spider, and the grand dragonfly respectively. It is most efficient if you learn to rush these dungeons, it saves a lot of time. Woodland is a joke to rush, just watch out for the plants, but the other two can be a bit gross, especially if you're more of a beginner, but they do become more easy of an experience. My TLDR guide for rushing these three is do not step on their enemies. These shoot shots all around them more than usual, so by standing on them you tank all of the shots. It is best if you set up a warrior for this because they're cheap, fast, and dish out great damage without needing any special gear. For purple dust, unfortunately the dungeons for these don't spawn too often, but if you do farm the Carboniferous biome again and look out for mantises, they have a chance of dropping the Moonlight Village. You gain a pretty decent amount of purple dust, while also getting some red and green dust for completing the first bosses. You don't get any dust for killing Umi though. I do have a guide for the first bosses that has no doubt helped at least 100 people in getting their first clear, because of the amount of thanks I get on stream. You should check it out after this video. While farming in this biome, you might also come across these jailer dudes, which have a guaranteed chance to drop spectral penitentiaries. These are much easier to clear than Moonlight Villages, and doing the hard mode doesn't increase the amount of dust you get. So if your main goal is dust, just go for the easy mode, which means you don't have to rush like a maniac, and then you just have to clear the 3 bosses. Another thing to do while you're in this biome is clear the set pieces. When you destroy one of these, you have a chance to spawn the Ancient Kaiju, who drops a guaranteed fungal cave-in that after completing the boss drops a guaranteed crystal cave-in. Both of these give a good amount of purple dust. You can also clear these faster by rushing, but that's much more harder. I'll probably upload a guide of how to do that in the future, so make sure to subscribe. And if you haven't hit the like button, what the hell are you doing? Please do so, because making Realm videos is not easy and it helps push my videos to more people. You can also kill the adult Bane Serpents that are usually in the very top right of the map if they've spawned for even more fungals. They feel better to kill than Kaijus because the boss itself is easier and the minions aren't cringe. I'd stick to the Carboniferous biome though. On top of that, if you see a nest or the train or the flying machine, you can teleport to these not only for the purple dust you get for clearing the event, but also to do Steamworks or Nest, since they give decent purple dust. You can also do the advanced versions which give way more purple dust, especially on the nest, but these are really hard. Speaking of things that are really hard, while clearing the set pieces in the Carboniferous biome, you might get this bird thing to spawn. This has a guaranteed chance to drop the shadows, which gives good purple dust the further you complete bosses in the dungeon, but yeah, it's quite the challenge for the average realm player. We'll probably get around to making a guide on this one too. Thankfully, no matter if your item is a UT, ST or tiered, it can get enchants. No more of this engraving shit. I've been begging for random enchants on UTs and STs for ages, so happy it's finally here. So you might be wondering what this Dropbox does, where it says enchanting method. What this is it allows you to select an item that helps you get specific enchants, mainly the unique and awakening enchants that we talked about previously. There's two different types of these enchantment methods, turrets and artifacts. Turrets are mostly what will help you get the unique enchants. The ones that give you a strong single stat bonus, or this one that gives you one of each stat, which isn't too great, or the lucky streak, which is beautiful. You can get turrets in the game randomly by clearing bosses, but I found the best way is specifically by doing Mad Labs. I don't know if it's personal bias or what, but I got way too many from the small amount that I did. You get this turret pack that when opened in the vault, it gives you one of 10 random cards, which correspond with one of the unique enchants. So for example, with the Wheel of Fortune, this one helps you get the lucky streak enchant. How you can use these to help you get the special enchantments is when you do go to the enchanter, select the tarot card, and it will triple your chance of getting the unique mod you're looking for. When you do get the tarots, it comes in a stack of 5, and there's a 50% chance of losing one when you do go for a reroll. It does also cost an extra 25 green dust to reroll. Another way to get tarots is by winning my Discord giveaways. Yeah! These tarots aren't usually tradable, but a really old collector's item basically got reworked, and now when you double left click it makes them into their respective usable cards, and then they become soulbound. To be honest, they're much more valuable as a collector's item, but I had like 100 of these from the days I used to merch in the game like 8 years ago, lol. I also have more giveaways for YouTube members, Twitch subs, and patrons, so if you're considering supporting my videos, like these awesome people on the screen, the extra giveaways on top of the free Discord giveaway is a bonus. I love you all either way. You can also get a bunch of free tarots and other free stuff by entering these voucher codes in the game shop. There's the Realm Tarot card in all caps, no space, and Realm Season 20, all caps, no space. 20 in the numbers. If these expired by the time you tried, I'm sorry, but this wouldn't have happened if you were subscribed to the channel and had notifications on and watched right away. At least this won't happen again, right? The second kind of enchanting methods are artifacts. These are rare items that can help you get those rare awakening enchants I showed earlier from the testing streams. However, there isn't an artifact for every awakening yet. Currently, there's a precision cog from Cogbold Steamworks that makes you 10 times more likely to get the Cogbold Spirit on the Overclocking Amulet, the High Voltage on the Conducting Wand, the Molecular Blade on the Cutlass, or the Artificial Core on the Staff of Extreme Prejudice. There's also the Ascension Ankh that gives 10 times greater chance of getting Ancient Blessing on the Tomb Rings. Yuck, gross. There's the Ivory Heart that drops from the Lair of Draconis and gives you a 10 times greater chance of getting the Drake Warden Awakening on the Lair of Draconis armors. And finally, there's the Amber Honeycomb that drops in the nest and adds a 10 times greater chance of you getting Living Hive on the armors, Buzzing Bullets on the Stinger, Apitoxin on the Doku, and Swarm Trees Wrath on Leafbow. Now, last thing I really need to talk to you about is the Forge, which can actually help you create divine items. But I also must warn you about the bugs that can waste your items. I'll explain. So the Forge got a bit of a rework. The most important things you need to know is that there's bugs here, and especially with crafting ST items, some of them you just can't do right now. Also, now for every UT craft, you need 2 items from the respective dungeon, so you can't spam make Planewalker or CC armors anymore. Like for example, for those, you'll need 2 Sprite Wands or 2 Candy Rings respectively. Another new major change is that you can now craft tiered items. You can even craft tier 14 Shatters items without doing the dungeon, by using Oryx free items. You just need 4 tier 14 items of the same equipment type to make another. Now, you can take advantage of the forge in major ways to save inventory space and in getting divine enchants. By combining items, you have a chance of getting at least the same, if not more enchant slots than the items you used. So for example, if you use 4 items with 2 enchant slots to forge another, it will have at least 2 enchant slots. Then it would do the 25% chance of rolling for 3 slots and 12.5% chance after that to get the 4 divine slots. But if you accidentally use a 0 slot item with 3 other 2 slot items, it could ruin things and make you end up with a 0 slot item. Or you could still hit the jackpot and get a 4 slot item. Keep in mind there's a massive bug right now that screwed me over, where if you accidentally use 4 items, no matter what rarity they are, even if you use 4 divines, if you select a blueprint which usually discounts the forge cost, it will actually make it as if you used 4 0 slot items. So yeah, this is something they really have to fix. Avoid clicking on the blueprint while you're in the forge menu. So if you remember the divine item dead church hunting strategy I told you about earlier, you can use this in conjunction with the forge to make guaranteed divine items for your class if you're looking to make like a loot set. Because farming for a specific ability is quite hard since there's 18 in the game. All you have to do is find 4 divine abilities to drop, and then you can forge it into the same tier of ability but for the class of your choice. Another thing you must know, a crazy tip, credit to Nigel, is that if you have enough material stored, then you only need the 2 required items to craft, right? These 2 items will be the basis of where the enchantment chance will start from, instead of 4, if that makes sense. So like for example, instead of needing 4 divine items to guarantee a divine craft, you just need 2 divine items to guarantee a divine craft, as well as the dismantled materials. So what I'm going to do personally, and what you should do too, is dismantle a ton of your stuff, because it's going to free up your vault space and you don't really need it. I'm simply going to leave behind all items with less than 2 enchantment slots, unless they're UTs that are too OP to dismantle. I'm also not going to touch tradable UTs since I use them for Discord and Twitch giveaways. And yeah, I'll keep rare and above items and roll for higher enchantment slots. The best strategy for forging is to dismantle everything with low enchants, though items that you use as a swap out barely benefit from enchantments, like for example the speedy loot from Snakebit, so you can save items like those even if they don't have enchants. Maybe you can even use the versions of those with the many slots to guarantee other UTs from the same dungeon to be legendary or divine. Last thing, if you're looking to upgrade an item with a forge material, like for example the Cogbold Core to upgrade a Doombow into a Clockwork Repeater, or the Umi Flame to upgrade a Spirit Staff into a Vigor, the enchantment chance will be based on the item that's getting upgraded. So if it's a Debo getting upgraded, and it already is divine, the Clockwork Repeater is guaranteed to become divine. But you could also YOLO it with a 0 slot, or a 3 slot, and it could turn into a divine repeater, if you're feeling dangerous. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to catch future videos. Check out my stream and like the video if you haven't yet. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.